Hello dear students, welcome back in class 10th biology. Students, I hope that you all are safe and sound at your homes. I also hope that you all are studying sincerely. Today we will continue chapter 7, control and coordination. The main topic of today's lecture is parts of human nervous system. In today's lecture we will study in detail about parts of human nervous system, location and protection of human brain, parts of human brain, functions of various parts of human brain, components of peripheral nervous system, difference between reflex action and involuntary actions, difference between reflex action and walking. What are the various parts of human nervous system? You have learned in the previous lecture about the various parts of human nervous system. Let us revise. It consists of central nervous system, autonomic nervous system, and peripheral nervous system. Components of central nervous system, brain and spinal cord. Components of autonomic nervous system, sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. Components of peripheral nervous system are cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Students, in exam, this question is asked, name the various components of central nervous system. So, brain and spinal cord. Now we will study about these components in detail. You are watching in this diagram that central nervous system is composed of brain, and this long rod-like structure is called spinal cord. And from the spinal cord, the various nerves are arising. From the spinal cord, the nerves arising are called spinal nerves, and the nerves arising from the brain are called cranial nerves. These cranial nerves and spinal nerves coming from brain and spinal cord respectively make peripheral nervous system. And then there is another part of nervous system, that is autonomic nervous system, which is composed of sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. What is the location of human brain and how this human brain is protected? It is located in the cranial part of the skull. You have seen in the previous slide that brain is located in the skull part of the body, and it is protected by a bony structure called cranium. The weight of the human brain is 1.2 to 1.4 kg, and it is protected by cranium located in the skull. This cranium is a bony box in which brain is located and protected in the skull. It is also protected by three protective coverings called meninges. There are three meninges. There are three layers which together called meninges. That is, the outer one is known as durameter. Middle one is called arachnoid, and the third one is called pyometer. These three membranes together form meninges and protect the delicate organ, that is brain. The space inside the brain between the meninges contain a fluid called cerebrospinal fluid. This further protect the brain against the shocks and mechanical injury. So this is how human brain is protected in the body. Similarly, spinal cord. You have seen in the previous slide that this delicate, long, rod like structure running at the back of the body is called spinal cord, that arises from the brain and runs into the vertebral column. So it is protected by vertebral column. Spinal cord itself is a very delicate organ and the part of central nervous system protected by a vertebral column. So brain and spinal cord are the main components of CNS, that is central nervous system. Brain is the main thinking part and information collecting center of the body. Let us study about the various parts of human brain. Human brain composed of three important parts: forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Forebrain is the largest part of the brain, which is further composed of two olfactory lobes associated with smell. Cerebrum, which consists of two cerebral hemisphere. Diencephalon, which consists of thalamus and hypothalamus part. Then midbrain also consists of various parts which play very important role in human brain, but details of midbrain are not in your syllabus. So we will study about the main parts of human brain. Hindbrain is the second largest part of the brain, which further composed of pons, cerebellum and medulla oblongata. So according to the CBSE syllabus, we will study in detail about the functions of cerebrum, which is the part of the forebrain, and the functions of pons, cerebellum and medulla oblongata, which are the parts of hindbrain. Uh, Students, our brain looks like apricot or walnut or akhroot, having many folds. These grooves and folds are gyri and sulci. These folds are called gyri and sulci, present in the right and left hemispheres of the brain. uh, Cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. It is the major part of forebrain, and forebrain is the largest part and cerebrum is its largest part. And this whole part of the brain, maximum part of the brain, is covered by cerebrum, which consists of various folds and grooves called gyri and sulci. And this cerebrum also consists of various lobes: frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe and temporal lobe. This is the internal structure of one cerebral hemisphere in a side view. This outer covering shows that this brain, delicate human brain, is protected by a bony covering called cranium in the skull. Then this again, the largest highly coiled part consists of various folds and grooves are present in cerebrum part, and cerebrum part is the largest part of the brain. Then this portion shows midbrain, but details of this midbrain is not visible in this diagram. At the floor there are present hypothalamus, then pituitary gland, which is the master gland of the body and forms endocrine system and controls whole endocrine system of the body. Below this is pons, and in front of pons there is again this flower like structure you are watching. This is the second largest part of the brain called cerebellum, and in front of it there are pons, and below pons there is medulla. So pons, medulla and cerebellum are the three main parts of hindbrain, and then medulla comes out from the brain and runs into the vertebral column in the form of spinal cord. So you can see that the spinal cord uh, runs into the, now it will continue into the vertebral column and protected by vertebral column. So this is about the structure of human brain. Let us study about the functions of the various parts of human brain. Forebrain, it is the largest part of the brain. Cerebrum is the largest part of forebrain. And now let us see various functions of cerebrum. It is the main thinking part of the brain. Whatever you think is controlled by cerebellum. It is a seat of intelligence, reasoning, questioning, and memory. Whatever you learn, remember, question, reason, and your intelligence, all is controlled by this cerebrum part. Its sensory areas receive and control all the sensations of various receptors like vision in eyes, hearing in ears, feeling pain, touch in skin, smelling in nose, tasting in tongue. All are controlled by cerebrum part. It controls all the voluntary actions of the body. It controls subconscious and conscious and subconscious mind. Means what you do consciously or what you do subconsciously is controlled by this cerebrum part. It interprets the sensory information by relating it to the previous experience and information from the other receptors, and then generate the command or order to the effectors to respond to that particular stimulus. Then it transfer all the impulses to the motor area for conducting them to the effectors where they respond appropriately in association area. The function of hypothalamus part of the brain controls body temperature, thirst, hunger, and with many more functions. Midbrain, it is the part of the brain which connects forebrain to hindbrain. It controls the movement of head, neck, and trunk. Trunk means the thoracic and abdominal part of the body that is below the head and neck region to locate sounds, light, and sight stimuli. It controls the reflex movements of eye muscles, pupil size, etc. Now, hindbrain consists of, pons, medulla, and cerebellum. Let's see the functions of pons. You have seen the structure of or location of pons in the diagram of human brain. It lies above medulla and takes part in regulation of respiration. It also relays impulses between different parts of the brain. Functions of medulla, it controls all the involuntary actions of the body like heartbeat, breathing, blood pressure, peristaltic movements of alimentary canal. It also helps in controlling the various reflexes like salivation, vomiting, coughing, etc. And the function of cerebellum, it is responsible for precision of voluntary actions of the body. It maintains the posture and balance or equilibrium of the body. Now, whatever the functions you have read in the previous slide, let us recall those functions with the help of this diagram. So you are seeing that this is the cerebral hemisphere showing the sensory area, motor area, and association area. Here is the association area, and this is the association area, and this is sensory area, and the various lobes of the cerebrum part of the brain. And you can see that here the sensory area receives the impulses from the various receptors. This picture depicts the function of um, cerebrum part, where the sensory area receive impulses from the receptors and ultimately sends the impulses to effectors. But before sending these impulses to the effectors, first the association area links together the information from the different senses so that the brain can make the appropriate decision before the impulses are sent to the motor area. Means this sensory area receives the impulses from the receptors, and then this association area collects those information and link together and then convert into a decision and pour or send it to the motor area. And from here the motor impulses in the form of command or order for the appropriate action is sent to the effectors, right? So, and this portion is thalamus part, and other various lobes are again depicted here. Then now see the cerebrum. controls all the voluntary activities, and it is the site of intelligence. This whole portion is the cerebrum, and the functions of cerebrum are depicted in this diagram. Then this portion is cerebellum, that the flower like structure you have seen in the previous diagram. Cerebellum maintains the position, posture, balance of the body, and also coordinates the movement of the skeletal muscles. Then this portion is medulla, which controls many reflexes and involuntary actions of the body. You have read in the previous slide. It controls vomiting, um, blood pressure, salivation, etc. And then it comes out and continued as spinal cord, which runs in the vertebral column. So, what are the various components of peripheral nervous system? Peripheral nervous system composed of cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Cranial nerves arise from brain, and they are 12 pairs in number and go into the various organs of head and neck region. Whereas spinal nerves arise from spinal cord, and they are 31 pairs in number and go to the various organs of the body from the spinal cord and connect the various organs of the body to the center nervous system, that is brain. So peripheral nervous system helps in communication between center nervous system, that is the brain and spinal cord, and with various parts of the body with the help of cranial nerves and spinal nerves. So you can be asked in the exams, what is the function of peripheral nervous system? Again, through this diagram, see, this central nervous system is composed of brain and spinal cord, and the nerves arising from the spinal cord are called spinal nerves, and the nerves arising from the brain are called cranial nerves. These are 12 pairs in number and go to the connect the various regions of the skull region, head region, neck region to the brain, and below the neck region, spinal nerves connect the various parts of the body to the spinal cord and brain, and forms the peripheral nervous system. Now, how does the nervous tissue control the action? Finally, very important question from the examination point of view. Nervous tissue receives information from the various body parts and send it to the brain. Brain processes the information and makes the decision and provide the orders on the basis of that particular information which it has received, and conveys the decision to the muscle cells to perform an action. Now see how muscle cells perform an action. What changes occur in the muscle cells? When a nerve impulse reaches the muscle cells move by changing their shape of their cellular components. You know, muscle cells have a special contractile protein that changes both the shape and the arrangement in the cells in response to the nervous electrical impulse. Means when the impulse reaches to the muscles, the inside the muscle cells, the contractile proteins help in changing the shape and size of the muscle cells, and muscle cells show the appropriate action. This arrangement of protein give the muscles a shorter form, and muscles finally move and perform the action. It is a very important question from the examination point of view. Recently in 2019 board exam, this question has been asked. So now let us see what is the difference between reflex action and voluntary action. Reflex action is controlled by the spinal cord. Voluntary action is controlled by the cerebrum part of the brain. Reflex action is the quick, immediate, and spontaneous response to the stimulus, whereas voluntary action is comparatively slow. You know, reflex action is involuntary action. It is not under our control, but voluntary actions is under the control of cerebrum. We can also control our voluntary actions. For example, touching a hot object is the example of reflex action. Walking, clapping, which are voluntary actions, is the example of voluntary action which we can control, and it is controlled by cerebrum part of the brain. Now let us see what is the difference between reflex action and involuntary actions. Though reflex action is an involuntary action, but there are certain differences between reflex action and involuntary action. For example, First point, reflex actions occur occasionally at the time of emergency, whereas involuntary actions, these occur all the time in the body. Let us see the example. Touching the hot object, closure of the eyes when light is flashed on them, biting of an insect, pricked by sharp needle or things are the examples of reflex action which occur occasionally. Involuntary actions, beating of heart, peristaltic movement, respiration, movement of lungs during breathing, blood supply, all are the involuntary actions which occur in the body all the time. Reflex actions are very quick in response, whereas involuntary actions are comparatively slow in response. Reflex actions are controlled by spinal cord, whereas involuntary actions are controlled by midbrain or hindbrain or by the medulla part. It is these reflex actions are concerned with emergency situations, whereas involuntary actions are concerned with functioning of internal body functions, body organs. These reflex actions commonly occur in response to the external harmful stimuli and carried out by the voluntary muscles, whereas involuntary actions occur in response to the internal stimuli and carried out by the smooth muscles of the body. Now, reflex action is monitored through spinal cord and not by the brain. Justify the statement means, is there any role of brain in reflex action? Students, we know that reflex action is a quick or immediate response to the stimulus without thinking or involving brain. It is controlled by spinal cord only. For example, withdrawing hand away quickly while touching the hot object. The the brain does not play an immediate role in controlling these reflex actions. These are immediately controlled by spinal cord only. So reflex arcs are made in spinal cord, you have seen in your previous lecture, and these are called spinal reflexes. However, the information input also goes on to reach the brain, as brain is the main controlling and coordinating center of the body and involves thinking process. It may act as information collecting center, means at the time of accident spinal cord will control the whole situation and take appropriate actions by providing appropriate order to our muscles to act, and brain does not give this does not play a role in controlling the reflex actions. But however, brain is the collecting information collecting center, and that incident store in the information collecting center of the brain somewhere, and we recall that situation that this happened to us, and tell others by recollecting what has happened during the emergency situation, to which our body respond quickly without the involvement of the brain. Then some reflex arcs also involve brain rather than the spinal cord only. They are called the cerebral reflexes. What are those? Where the brain involves in those reflexes. For example, closing of eyes when exposed to flash of light, salivation on seeing the tempting food. These are the certain reflexes which are controlled by the brain directly, but mostly the spinal reflex actions are mostly spinal reflexes, so which are controlled by spinal cord only in the body. So this is all about today's lecture. I hope you have understood. If you have any query, ask me. So thank you so much, students. Stay healthy, stay safe.